Remember that crushing feeling? The one where you thought you knew someone, truly knew them, and then, boom, your world shattered. They promised love, loyalty, and then delivered a blow that cut deeper than you ever imagined. Not by accident, not a slip-up, but with a chilling awareness of the pain they were inflicting. You're left sifting through the wreckage, not just of a relationship, but of your very self. What do you do when the person you trusted most utterly demolishes your reality? Do you lash out? Do you retreat into a shell of bitterness? Or do you find a way to rise stronger and more resilient than before? We've all been there. That moment when the rug is pulled out from under you, and it's not by a stranger, but by someone who had the key to your heart. They looked you in the eye, swore eternal loyalty, and then, without a second thought, betrayed you. The sting isn't just emotional, it's an existential crisis. How could the safest harbor in your life become the source of your deepest wound? It leaves you questioning everything, your judgment, your past, even your own worth. But here's what no one tells you. That moment of betrayal wasn't just about them. It was a pivotal question posed by life itself. Who will you become? Because of this? Imagine this. You're standing at a crossroads. Behind you, the wreckage of a profound betrayal. A trust broken, a heart wounded, a reality shattered. Ahead, an uncertain path, but also an opportunity. An opportunity to choose. Will you collapse into the familiar traps of revenge and bitterness, drowning in the pain they inflicted? Or will you take that raw, agonizing hurt and transform it into an unshakable inner power? This isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Real freedom. The kind that allows you to reclaim your self-worth, protect your inner peace, and build boundaries so strong that this kind of hurt never infiltrates your soul again. Welcome to StoicCraft, where we explore timeless wisdom for modern challenges. If you're ready to turn your pain into power, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The devastation of betrayal. Understanding the deep cut being hurt by a casual acquaintance might sting a little, but when it's someone you entrusted with your deepest vulnerabilities, someone who saw into your soul and swore they'd never cause you pain, that's when you truly shatter. When an enemy reveals their true colors, at least you have the benefit of seeing it coming. But with a betrayal from within your closest circle, the pain isn't just emotional. It's existential. It's not merely what they did, but the complete collapse of your perception, leaving you to grapple with the agonizing question, how did the person I felt safest with become the source of my profoundest agony? Betrayal. A direct hit to your emotional core, let's be absolutely clear. A casual acquaintance or a stranger lacks the power to truly betray you. Betrayal is reserved for those you've willingly invited into the most sacred spaces of your heart. It's only when you've fully opened the door, let down your guard, and believed yourself to be completely safe that betrayal can occur. And when that person turns against you, it doesn't just erode your trust in them. It fundamentally challenges the very notion that trust can exist at all. It's not just pain. It's a profound sense of disorientation. You find yourself endlessly questioning, was I naive? Were they ever genuinely sincere? Did I completely miss the warning signs? But here's a crucial truth to hold on to. No, you weren't blind. No, you weren't weak or foolish. You simply chose to love and trust with genuine honesty, and they, regrettably, lacked the inner strength or integrity to handle that truth. The broken illusion, more devastating than the act itself. The real devastation isn't solely the act of betrayal itself. It's the shattering of a deeply held illusion. As the Stoics wisely taught, it's not the external event that truly disturbs us, but our interpretation and perception of it. You're not just heartbroken because they lied, cheated, or walked away. You're truly devastated because you simply never conceived of them being capable of such an act. You didn't just lose a relationship. You lost a fundamental version of reality you had wholeheartedly believed in. And that profound realization, that sudden jarring shift in your perception of the world, often cuts deeper than the betrayal itself. Yet, there's a powerful and liberating truth within this. People are inherently complex beings. Someone can genuinely love you, mean every word they say in a moment, and still, tragically, hurt you. This often isn't a reflection of your worth, but rather a manifestation of their own unaddressed emotional wounds and personal darkness. Don't idealize. Observe. The path to emotional intelligence. This leads us to a critical point. Stop putting people on pedestals. Instead, make it your practice to truly observe them. The higher you elevate someone in your mind, the more catastrophic the fall when they inevitably stumble. True wisdom isn't about cynicism or distrusting everyone. It's about clear-eyed observation, free from the distortions of illusion. Stoicism guides us to see clearly, to recognize that every single person, without exception, carries both light and shadow within them. Even those who once held us in their arms and swore eternal devotion. When you begin to see people as they truly are, rather than as you desperately wish they would be, you don't become emotionally guarded or closed off. On the contrary, you simply begin to protect your heart with the invaluable shield of discernment. That, my friends, is the essence of emotional intelligence. Betrayal isn't rare. Naivete is. Embracing wisdom, here's an uncomfortable yet liberating truth. Betrayal is not a rare occurrence in life. It's an inherent part of the human experience, not because the world is inherently evil, but because human beings are fundamentally imperfect. Don't allow this reality to harden you or turn you into a bitter, resentful person. Instead, let it be the catalyst that transforms you into a wiser, more discerning individual. The ultimate goal isn't to walk through life distrusting everyone you meet. It's to cultivate the wisdom to trust slowly and to build your personal boundaries with careful consideration and deep insight. Many acts of betrayal don't happen because you somehow did something wrong or invited the pain. More often than not, they occur because the other person simply hasn't done the crucial inner work to confront their own fears, acknowledge their flaws, or address their personal dysfunction. Awareness. Your armor, not your prison. Let's straighten this out. Gaining a deeper understanding of the realities of betrayal doesn't make you cold or cynical. It actually liberates you. It empowers you to construct robust psychological boundaries that safeguard your inner peace without completely shutting off your capacity for love and connection. You begin to grasp a profound truth. Not everyone merits full access to the depths of your soul. Not every apology, regardless of how seemingly sincere, automatically earns a second chance. And critically, not everyone who utters the words, "I love you," is truly equipped or capable of protecting what that love genuinely demands from them. This, in its truest form, is self-worth, not a display of arrogance, but a calm, deeply grounded awareness that quietly asserts, "I am not here to be broken again. I am here to grow, and to grow only with those who possess the maturity and wisdom to truly hold trust with the care and reverence it deserves." So if you've been agonizing, "Why did they do this to me?" understand this. It wasn't your fault. Their actions were a direct reflection of their own immaturity, their fears, or their fundamental inability to love beyond the confines of their own ego. You cannot control how someone chooses to love you, but you absolutely can and must control who you allow to love you next. You were betrayed, yes, but you are unequivocally not broken. You are, in fact, immeasurably wiser now. From this moment forward, you're not bitter. You're simply bounded. Not closed off, but no longer naively wide open to those who show you their hands, only to use them to cut you deeply. Chapter 2. Reclaiming your control. The power of your response. The very first thing betrayal attempts to steal from you isn't your peace or even your trust. It attempts to hijack your self-control. The instant someone shatters your heart, your brain shifts into an immediate war mode. Adrenaline surges, your chest tightens, and rational thought takes a back seat to primal reaction. You feel an overwhelming urge to scream, to make them experience the exact agony you're feeling. You want to send that scathing message, burn every bridge, and tear them apart with every uncomfortable truth you know. This is the first, most dangerous trap. And if you succumb to it, you don't achieve justice. You simply lose your own center. The battle between pain and power. Here lies the profound paradox of betrayal. It leaves you feeling utterly powerless. And in that vacuum, you desperately seek power in all the wrong places. You retaliate, hurl insults, overshare your private pain, and spiral into destructive behaviors. It might feel momentarily gratifying, a fleeting rush of vindication. But what inevitably follows? Shame, profound regret, and debilitating emotional fatigue. In essence, you've handed over control of your own identity to the very person who broke you. Because when you relinquish control over yourself, you're no longer responding with agency. You're merely mirroring the same dysfunction that caused your original wound. And make no mistake, revenge doesn't make you strong. It makes you a distorted reflection of your abuser. Emotional intelligence. Not giving them the wheel when someone cheats on you, lies to you, manipulates you, or disrespects you. Your initial visceral reaction is entirely natural. However, a natural reaction isn't always a necessary or constructive one. The Stoics taught that true freedom begins with choice. Not the freedom to do whatever your impulses dictate, but the profound freedom to resist doing what your pain demands of you. That is the hallmark of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to feel the full, searing force of your anger, but to pause, even for a split second, before speaking. It's being utterly devastated, but refusing to succumb to despair. It's hurting deeply, but refusing to hand your dignity over to the one who caused your suffering. You cannot control their betrayal, but you absolutely can control your response to it. This is the bedrock of self-mastery. Revenge, an illusion of power, a reality of weakness. Let's be brutally honest. Revenge is incredibly seductive. It whispers. Enticingly, if they hurt, you'll finally feel better. It promises, make them bleed, and your own bleeding will stop. But this is a cruel lie, because when your healing is contingent upon their suffering, you remain inextricably tied to them, still waiting for their downfall, still dancing to the rhythm of their dysfunction. True power is not found in inflicting pain upon them. It is found in becoming utterly untouchable by their actions and their negativity. They don't anticipate your silence. They don't expect your composure. They expect chaos, floods of tears, screaming matches, and complete emotional collapse. Give them none of it. Not because you're suppressing your pain, but because you have evolved beyond their paltry level of chaos. Revenge is merely emotional fast food. Stoic restraint is high-performance fuel. One burns you out, while the other builds you up. Inner peace. Louder than any revenge, people often mistakenly believe that peace is passive, that it's a sign of weakness. It is not. Peace is, in fact, an incredible act of discipline. Consider how much inner strength it takes to remain calm and centered when someone actively attempts to play games with your emotions. Think about how rare it is to simply sit with your own pain without projecting it onto others. Stoicism isn't about eradicating feelings or becoming emotionally numb. It's about consciously choosing which feelings are allowed to govern your actions and your inner state. When you painstakingly build your inner peace like an impregnable fortress, you stop being easily baited. You stop being emotionally hijacked by external provocations. You stop reacting to every offense as if it's genuinely worth your precious energy. That is precisely when your silence transforms into your most potent form of revenge. Not the petty, vindictive kind, but the kind that unequivocally declares, you no longer have access to my nervous system. And for someone who once thrived on feeding off your emotions, that realization is truly terrifying. The spiritual strength of restraint it takes a spiritually weak person to lash out impulsively and reactively. However, it takes a truly spiritually disciplined individual to exercise profound restraint in the very midst of betrayal and profound hurt. Restraint isn't about feigning indifference or pretending you don't care. It's about a powerful declaration. I care about my own well-being, my own peace, and my own growth far more than I care about punishing you. Your personal growth, your hard-won inner peace, and your emotional clarity, these are your absolute priorities now. Not proving a point, not getting the last word, not showing them what they irrevocably lost, but profoundly showing yourself what you have gained through this experience. And if they happen to be watching, good. Let your silence speak volumes that words never could. You were betrayed, yes, but you are not broken. You are simply standing at a pivotal crossroads, poised between the person you were and the magnificent individual you are on the cusp of becoming. Do not choose collapse. Do not choose the destructive path of revenge. Choose power. Choose the version of yourself who doesn't need to scream to be heard. Because when you stop reacting impulsively, you begin the profound process of rewriting your entire story. Chapter 3. Reflection, the path from reaction to revelation. There's a singular, defining moment after betrayal that truly dictates everything that follows. It's not the exact moment they walked away, or the instant they uttered the lie, or even the crushing disbelief when you broke down. It's that profound turning point when you finally cease asking, "How could they do this to me?" and instead begin to ask, "What is this pain desperately trying to teach me?" That is the crucial shift. That is the precise turning point when you stop reacting impulsively and begin to truly reflect. Reaction versus reflection. A crucial distinction: reaction is immediate, raw, and springs directly from the fresh wound. Reflection, on the other hand, is a slower, more measured process. It emerges from the inner observer, the wise part of you that stands above the fray. When you react, you are merely being pulled along by the relentless current of pain. But when you reflect, you gain the ability to stand above it, observing, listening, and painstakingly decoding its message. Stoicism doesn't advocate for pretending you're not hurting. Rather, it encourages you to pause long enough to delve deep and ask yourself, what specific part of me is hurting, and precisely why? Is it the betrayal itself, or is it the idealized story you had painstakingly built about who they truly were? Is it the loss of that person, or the painful dissolution of the identity you had so intricately woven around them? This profound internal inquiry is the true gateway to emotional intelligence, not a means of escaping difficult emotions, but a powerful tool for truly understanding them. Pain, a mirror, not a verdict. Here's an uncomfortable truth that many are reluctant to face. The pain you're experiencing isn't solely about the person who caused it. It's also significantly about you, your pre-existing wounds, your deeply held beliefs, and your ingrained expectations. This does not, in any way, excuse their actions, but it unveils a powerful revelation. The pain they triggered likely already resided, in some form, within you. Perhaps you consistently gave too much of yourself, or you consciously ignored glaring red flags, or your sense of self-worth was too intricately tied to their approval. This doesn't diminish your value, it simply highlights your humanity. But now you stand at a crucial choice. Will you continue to blame them for your emotional state, or will you take radical ownership of those emotions and, in doing so, reclaim your inner power? This is how genuine reflection truly sets you free. From victimhood to sovereignty, many individuals remain trapped in their suffering because they inadvertently adopt the identity of a victim. They lament, "I can never trust anyone again," or "I'll never be the same," or "they completely ruined me." However, when you persist in this mindset, you grant them permanent power over your future. You construct your entire narrative around their past behavior, and that, fundamentally, is not healing. It's emotional captivity. The Stoics implore us to embrace radical ownership of our inner world. You may not choose how life delivers its blows, but you always retain the profound choice of what meaning you ascribe to that impact. Reflection transforms raw suffering into invaluable insight. It teaches you that pain is not an enemy, but a vital message. Something within you was fragile, and now it's time to strengthen it. Stillness, a weapon for the modern soul in contemporary culture. Silence is often misconstrued as weakness, an inability to speak up. However, in Stoicism, stillness is a potent form of power. When you cultivate stillness, you gain crystal clear clarity. You cease emotionally bleeding all over everyone around you. You stop lashing out impulsively and instead begin to listen deeply to your inner wisdom. This isn't abstract spiritual fluff. This is the disciplined practice of warriors, philosophers, and survivors throughout history. Marcus Aurelius didn't pen his meditations because his life was easy. He wrote them because he understood that the only true control he possessed was over himself. When you consciously pause to reflect, you create invaluable space. And within that sacred space, you reclaim ownership of your own story. This is the authentic way you rise. What reflection reveals that reaction never could? Reaction screams. They ruined everything. Reflection, however, whispers a profound truth. No, they merely revealed what was never truly solid to begin with. Reaction desperately craves justice. Reflection quietly seeks clarity. Reaction demands that they pay. Reflection wisely states, I'd rather invest my energy in becoming completely untouchable. And when you wholeheartedly choose this path, you stop living in constant reaction to their chaos. You begin building your life from a place of profound spiritual discipline, rather than being driven by fleeting emotional impulses. That is precisely what Stoicism meticulously trains in you. Not emotional coldness, but supreme emotional control. Not detachment from the capacity to love, but healthy detachment from corrosive dysfunction. Not blindness to the existence of pain, but absolute mastery over what pain attempts to create within you. From now on, pause, observe, choose. The most truly powerful individuals don't move with frantic speed. They move with profound deliberation. When someone disrespects you, betrays you, or causes you hurt, before you hastily post online, send that angry text, scream into the void, or spiral into self-destructive thoughts, pause, observe, then consciously choose your response. That precious space between the raw impulse and the deliberate action, that's where true freedom resides. And within that space, your old, wounded self begins to wither, and a new, wiser, quieter version of you begins to powerfully emerge. A version who doesn't need to be loud to be strong, who doesn't crave revenge to feel powerful, and who doesn't require external validation to recognize their inherent worth. Because once you begin the profound journey of reflection, no one and nothing can ever define you again except for yourself. Chapter 4. Embracing pain as a teacher, the catalyst for growth. Most people instinctively view pain as something to be avoided, suppressed, or outright fled from. They treat it as a cruel punishment, an unfair cosmic injustice that should never have befallen them. But the Stoics, with their profound wisdom, saw it entirely differently. They understood that pain, when confronted with unwavering courage and honesty, is not a prison. It is, in fact, a powerful teacher. Not the comforting, soothing kind of teacher, but the kind that profoundly awakens you to deeper truths about yourself and the world. The instinct to escape. A detour, not a solution when you've been deeply betrayed. Lead to or emotionally crushed, the mind's first instinct is always to enter survival mode, seeking immediate escape. You might find yourself frantically distracting yourself, desperately trying to numb the persistent ache. You might overwork, overeat, or endlessly overthink, seeking a strange comfort in the chaos of your own mind. Sitting with raw pain feels too quiet, too real, too overwhelming. But here's the uncomfortable, yet necessary, truth. Avoiding pain only guarantees its eventual, often more intense, return. Because pain that isn't consciously processed and integrated transforms into pain that subtly controls you in your future relationships, in your self-worth, and even in your profound silence. The only genuine way out of pain is paradoxically straight through it. Pain is diagnostic, a blueprint for rebuilding. Think of emotional pain like the sharp signal your body sends to your brain when you break a bone. Something is profoundly wrong here. Pay attention. Emotional pain functions in precisely the same way. It tells you exactly where you placed your trust, perhaps unwisely, which parts of your identity were built on unstable ground, where you've tolerated far too much disrespect, and where your boundaries were never adequately enforced. Pain is not your adversary. Pain is invaluable information. It loudly declares, this particular area hurts. Pay close attention to it. If you genuinely listen to its message, it will reveal the precise blueprint for where and how you need to rebuild your life. But if you choose to numb it, you inevitably miss the critical message and are destined to repeat the painful pattern. Illusion of strength versus reality of growth. Many individuals mistakenly equate suppression with true strength. They'll nonchalantly say, "I'm fine," or pretend they've completely moved on. They might block, delete, ignore, or avoid any reminder of the pain. But avoidance, however comforting it may seem in the short term, is not genuine healing. It's merely postponed suffering. Real strength doesn't emanate from pretending you're okay or putting on a brave face. It comes from courageously looking pain directly in the eye and declaring, "You do not get to define me, but you absolutely will teach me something profoundly valuable before you finally leave." That, my friends, is spiritual discipline. It's not some rigid religious dogma, but the deep, inner practice of confronting reality without distortion and using it as a powerful lever to elevate your consciousness. Growth doesn't feel good. It feels necessary. Nobody truly transforms or evolves in a state of comfort. We grow and adapt in discomfort. We are sharpened and refined in the crucible of fire. We truly rise through active resistance and struggle. Pain is not the end of your story. Pain is merely the door. And what lies on the other side of that door is the strongest, most resilient version of yourself you have yet to encounter. But you don't arrive there by attempting to bypass the necessary process. You get there by being radically honest with yourself and asking the difficult questions. What did this betrayal reveal about my own blind spots? What specific part of me desperately needs healing? Why did I choose to stay when I distinctly knew I was being drained? What core values did I compromise or abandon simply to maintain a false sense of peace with someone who was actively destroying mine? These deeply uncomfortable questions are the very birthplace of genuine self-awareness, turning pain into power. The alchemy of experience. Once you fundamentally shift your perspective and stop viewing pain as something that never should have happened, you begin to see it as the very catalyst that had to happen to profoundly awaken you. Every time you ask why, pain in its own silent wisdom replies, "So you can rise." This is where emotional intelligence transcends mere understanding and becomes powerful transformation. You don't weaponize your pain against others. Instead, you alchemize it, transforming it within yourself. Pain becomes crystal clear clarity. Pain becomes unwavering purpose. Pain becomes an impenetrable shield of protection. And ultimately, pain becomes a profound source of strength. Not overnight, not easily, but consistently through deliberate effort. This is how true warriors are forged. Not in moments of ease, but in those crucible moments where they unequivocally choose to rise instead of collapse. You're not cursed. You're being forged. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you simply because you are hurting. This pain is not evidence that you are fundamentally broken. It is compelling proof that you are actively bemming. You are not stuck in an endless loop. You are currently under intense construction, and that is precisely why you feel raw, why you feel intensely vulnerable, and why it feels as though everything is falling apart around you. Because sometimes things must profoundly break down for the truth to finally find its way in. You didn't ask for this pain. You certainly didn't deserve it. But you absolutely get to decide what it ultimately becomes. And if you choose, it can become the unshakable foundation of a life that no one ever again can destabilize. Because when you courageously transform pain into profound wisdom, you become something far more formidable than someone who has never been hurt. You become truly unbreakable. Chapter 5. Releasing bitterness. Breaking free from emotional captivity. Bitterness often feels entirely justified. You've been betrayed. You remained loyal while someone else was not. You poured everything you had into a situation, and they simply walked away as if it meant nothing at all. So you cling tightly to that burning fire in your chest. You feed it constantly with painful memories, with simmering anger, with every agonizing "how could they?" That plays on an endless loop in your mind. And for a while it might even feel powerful, giving you a distorted sense of control. Bitterness can make you feel like you still matter, even if it's only through the shared experience of pain. But here's the brutal, unvarnished truth. Bitterness is not power. It is, in fact, emotional captivity cunningly disguised in a deceptive suit of armor. Bitterness. A seductive lie. Bitterness seduces you with a compelling lie. It whispers that you're merely protecting yourself, staying strong, or simply keeping score. But what you are genuinely doing is keeping yourself perpetually stuck. Stuck in a relentless narrative where you are always the one who was hurt. Stuck in an unchangeable past. Stuck in emotional loops that hijack your precious peace every single time their name or memory surfaces. You might sincerely believe you've constructed an impenetrable fortress, but in reality you've meticulously built a prison. And in this self-made confinement, you are tragically both the inmate and the diligent guard. The steep cost of carrying. Bitterness doesn't just block the entry of new love into your life. It actively obstructs your personal growth. It clouds your judgment, distorting your perception of reality. It transforms your valuable emotional intelligence into damaging emotional reactivity. Suddenly, every new person who enters your life feels like a potential threat. Every compliment feels disingenuous or fake. Every new opportunity appears to be another elaborate setup for disappointment. Because when bitterness leads the way, paranoia inevitably follows closely behind. You're not protecting your inner peace. You are actively poisoning it. You're not guarding your precious heart. You're effectively closing it off to everyone, including your own capacity for joy. And the most devastating part of all, they will eventually move on. You, however, remain tragically stuck. Bitterness keeps the story about them. You find yourself constantly thinking, one day they'll finally realize what they did. One day they'll regret their actions. One day I'll get the last satisfying word. But why should your healing, your liberation, be entirely dependent on their belated awakening or recognition? Bitterness keeps them at the very center of a story that is fundamentally supposed to be about your profound evolution. Let that powerful truth truly sink in. They hurt you, yes. And now you are inadvertently allowing their past choices and behavior to continuously shape your personality, dictate your energy, and define your entire future. That is not justice. That is, in a subtle but dangerous way, emotional dependence cleverly disguised, the illusion of control versus the practice of peace. When you live immersed in bitterness, it can create the illusion that you are somehow winning, that you are in control. But in reality, you are constantly reacting. You are perpetually triggered, still bleeding from a wound they may not even remotely remember causing. That, unequivocally, is not power. It's sheer emotional exhaustion. True power manifests when you no longer feel the incessant need to react, when you cease mentally rehearsing cutting comebacks in your head, when you can gently trace the scar of your past without constantly reopening the raw wound. That, my friend, is genuine inner peace, and you don't attain it by suppressing the pain. You achieve it by resolutely refusing to overcome the pain. Bitterness isn't strength. Clarity is letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is a profound and strategic choice. You are not, by letting go, asserting that what they did was acceptable or okay. You are, with quiet conviction, declaring that they do not get to determine who you ultimately become. That is spiritual discipline in its highest form. It's knowing with absolute certainty that you could lash out, but consciously choosing deep restraint. It's knowing you could obsess over every detail, but choosing healthy detachment. It's knowing you could meticulously keep score of every wrong, but choosing instead to rise above the pettiness rather than sink into it. Letting go doesn't mean you erase the memory or forget the lesson. It means you vehemently refuse to carry their dysfunction within your own nervous system any longer. That is not softness. That is pure, unadulterated power. The quiet cost of bitterness, losing yourself the more you compulsively rehearse the painful story of how they broke you, the more you tragically lose connection with the person you were before they inflicted that wound. That is the ultimate tragedy of allowing bitterness to dictate your life's narrative. You slowly but surely sever your connection to joy, to creativity, to the capacity for trust, and ultimately to your authentic self. But the moment you declare with unwavering resolve, "I am done making this pain my sole identity," that is the precise moment you seize your story back. You remember with clarity that you are not merely what happened to you. You are fundamentally what you choose to become next. Bitterness craves to keep you small, to keep you closed off, to keep you perpetually angry. But you, my friend, were built for something far greater. You were built for a profound self-worth that needs no validation through revenge, for boundaries that require no lengthy explanations, and for an inner peace that no betrayal can ever truly touch. Let them go, not for their benefit, but entirely for yours, because the true danger isn't that they betrayed you. It's that you would allow them to continue to live rent-free inside your head. Chapter 6. Beyond Revenge, Cultivating Unshakable Self-Worth After Betrayal. A powerful, insistent voice often rises within you. It's sharp, loud, and relentless. They deserve to feel exactly what I felt. They shouldn't get away with this. I want them to suffer, just as I did. This is the potent temptation of revenge, and it feels righteous, completely justified, even logically compelling. But it is not healing. It is, in fact, a cunning trap. Revenge, emotional quicksand. When you allow yourself to be pulled into the quicksand of revenge, here's what truly happens beneath the surface. You remain deeply and emotionally attached to the very person who caused you so much pain. You put your own peace on indefinite pause, endlessly waiting for their suffering. You consciously delay your own healing, pinning your hopes on their eventual collapse. You might genuinely believe you're reclaiming power, but in harsh reality, you are building your entire future on the precarious foundation of their failure. And that, unequivocally, is not freedom. It's dependence cleverly masked as justice. Revenge is seductive, but always empty. Revenge whispers persuasive promises. If they feel pain, you'll finally be free. If they break, you'll finally be whole. If they regret, you'll finally heal. But take a moment to truly consider this. If your inner peace is utterly dependent on their misery, you are not healed. You are, in fact, still hooked, still orbiting. Their choices still waiting for a moment that may never actually arrive, and tragically still looking outward for what can only be found within. This is precisely where emotional intelligence begins to speak with far greater authority than raw emotion itself. Their pain doesn't fix mine. My own growth does. Justice versus revenge. Knowing the difference, understand this crucial distinction. Justice seeks to restore balance. Revenge, conversely, fundamentally distorts it. Justice is driven by deeply held values. Revenge is solely driven by a bruised ego. Justice asks, what is truly right? Revenge screams, I want to feel powerful now. You are absolutely within your right to seek accountability, to speak your truth, and to walk away with your dignity intact. But the moment your mission devolves into make them suffer, you have already abandoned your own integrity, because you don't need to destroy them to rise. You simply need to stop shrinking yourself to their level of dysfunction. The silent power of restraint. True power isn't found in delivering a devastating comeback or a clever retort. It resides in the profound, calm silence that unequivocally declares, you no longer have any access to me, not even emotionally. People often expect drama, explosive rage, and to see you completely spiral out of control. When you offer them absolutely nothing, not a text, not a social media story, not a reactive outburst, you effectively starve the very attention their ego feeds upon. That is not passivity or weakness. That is true spiritual discipline. You don't need revenge. You need boundaries. Most individuals who crave revenge don't actually wish to physically harm the other person. What they truly desire is relief. Relief from feeling discarded, relief from the sting of humiliation, relief from the overwhelming sense of powerlessness. But revenge, ironically, cannot provide that relief. It only perpetuates and creates more chaos. What does provide profound relief are clear, strong boundaries. Not the kind you loudly announce to the world, but the kind you quietly and firmly enforce. You don't need to explicitly tell them they've lost access to you. You simply and decisively remove it. You block them not as a punishment, but as an act of self-protection. You let go not to teach them a lesson, but to restore your own precious self-worth. You go silent not because you are weak, but because you are definitively done participating in their destructive drama. That is not revenge. That is powerful reclamation. Your healing isn't their punishment. It's your revolution. The very best thing you will ever do for yourself is to stop waiting for them to feel remorse or offer an apology. You don't need closure from someone who was incapable of even giving you basic clarity in the first place. Healing isn't about proving them wrong or making them regret their actions. It's about becoming so utterly whole, so incredibly clear, and so completely focused on your high performance mindset that their name or existence becomes utterly irrelevant to your future. Let them wonder why you're not reacting. Let them sit with the unsettling weight of your silence. Let them witness you rising steadily and powerfully without them, because nothing haunts a fragile ego more than the sight of the one they tried to break becoming utterly untouchable. You do not heal by hurting them back. You heal by unequivocally choosing yourself, by meticulously rebuilding your values, by resolutely reinforcing your boundaries, and by bravely rewriting your narrative without needing them to ever understand it. That, my friends, is genuine power. That is true peace. That is Stoicism in its most dynamic motion. Chapter 7. Building Boundaries. Protecting your inner sanctuary. After experiencing profound betrayal, the immediate instinct is often simple and compelling. Shut everyone out. Erect walls so incredibly high that no one ever again can possibly hurt you. You tell yourself, if I don't let anyone in, no one can break me. And in the very short term, this strategy might even seem to work. You might feel untouchable, cold, and strangely safe. But that perceived safety comes at an incredibly steep price. Because walls don't discriminate. They don't just keep pain out. They also tragically keep out life itself. Love, genuine connection, profound growth, and unadulterated joy. All of it. What you truly need isn't emotional isolation. What you desperately need are robust, healthy boundaries. The problem with emotional walls are fundamentally rooted in fear. They are meticulously constructed upon past trauma, deep-seated mistrust, and the false illusion of total control. You withdraw from the world, you become numb, and you gradually stop trusting even those who have never caused you harm. Eventually, the wall you've built becomes your very identity. You are no longer just guarded. You become profoundly disconnected. But that, unequivocally, is not power. That is self-protection mutating into a self-imposed prison. The Stoics did not advocate for running away from vulnerability. Instead, they taught us to navigate through pain with astute discernment, not to permanently close the door to our hearts, but to consciously decide who gets the privilege of knocking what boundaries really are. Clarity in action. Let's clarify. Boundaries are not ultimatums designed to control others. They are not manipulative tactics. They are certainly not punishments inflicted upon others. Boundaries are quite simply clarity in action. They precisely define what you will allow into your life, what you will actively stop, and what you will consistently reinforce as your personal standards. They are a powerful language of self-worth, not a desperate act of self-defense. They quietly declare, I don't need to engage in an argument. I will simply disengage respectfully. You don't have to agree with me. I will still firmly uphold my standard. This is where I end and where you begin. That, my friend, is not hostility. That is advanced emotional intelligence. Boundaries require strength, not anger. Anyone can lash out impulsively. Anyone can abruptly cut people out of their lives without a second thought. But it demands profound spiritual discipline to establish boundaries with calm, unwavering conviction. To be able to say, I still care about you, but I will not tolerate disrespect any longer. I forgive you for what you did, but you no longer have access to my life. I love myself far too much to entertain chaos in my inner world. Boundaries are not about permanently keeping people away. They are about meticulously keeping your sacred peace intact. Because once you truly understand the immense cost of constantly being emotionally available to individuals who relentlessly drain your energy, you will cease to feel any guilt whatsoever for saying no. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Every single time you silently tolerate disrespect, you are inadvertently sending a clear message. This behavior is acceptable. Every time you feel compelled to endlessly explain yourself to someone who consistently disregards your truth, you are effectively teaching them that your boundaries are negotiable. But when you set boundaries consistently, without anger, without fear, you subtly but powerfully retrain the world around you. Not through force, but through unwavering firmness. You are not being difficult. You are simply being self-directed. That is how you gracefully evolve into someone who no longer merely reacts, but instead intelligently redirects. Boundaries enable high-performance living. This isn't merely about personal relationships. It's profoundly about energy management. Every person, every message, every piece of drama you choose to engage with exacts a cost on your mental clarity. And when your focus becomes fractured and diluted, your full potential is significantly diminished. Healthy boundaries enable you to sustain a high-performance mindset. They foster deep, focused work instead of shallow, reactive responses. They encourage calm, centered mornings instead of chaotic notifications. They lead to fewer, but far deeper connections. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming incredibly intentional. And intention, my friend, is the very architecture of true power. From emotional chaos to structured inner peace, the Stoics firmly believed that peace is not something that is simply given to you. It is something that must be diligently protected, not through isolating yourself, but through wise and conscious filtering. You begin to ask yourself, does this person genuinely bring me peace, or do they consistently bring problems? Is this conversation truly necessary, or is it merely distracting noise? Am I abandoning my own well-being simply to maintain this connection? This is how robust psychological boundaries begin to elegantly shape your world, not as rigid, unyielding walls, but as a sacred structure that profoundly honors your precious time, energy, and soul. You don't need to completely shut the world out. You simply need to carefully curate your access points. You can still love deeply. You can still care honestly, but you do it from a place of profound wholeness and strength, not from a place of fear or desperation. Boundaries clearly state, you are welcome here, but only if you genuinely honor what this sacred space requires. That is not cruelty. That is self-respect in its most powerful, active form. Chapter 8. Forgiveness, your path to liberation. Let's establish something crystal clear from the very beginning. Forgiveness is not about them. It's not a favor you bestow. It's certainly not an act of surrender or condonement. And it is absolutely not about letting anyone off the hook for their actions. Forgiveness is fundamentally about liberation, your liberation, because as long as your inner peace remains inextricably tied to their perceived punishment or suffering, you are still not truly free. The lie. They don't deserve forgiveness. Perhaps they truly don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe they acted with profound cruelty, selfishness, or blatant manipulation. Perhaps their betrayal changed the entire trajectory of your life. And the undeniable truth is, forgiveness isn't about whether they deserve it. It's about whether you desire it. Do you genuinely desire to move forward with your life? Do you desire to reclaim your precious energy that is still bound to their actions? Do you desire to stop giving your power to someone who has already so carelessly misused it? If your answer to these questions is yes, then forgiveness is not merely optional. It is an absolute necessity. Not for their sake, but entirely for your own sanity and well-being. Forgiveness isn't pretending. It's positioning. Forgiveness does not mean you excuse their despicable behavior. You don't pretend it didn't profoundly matter, nor do you open the door for a repeat offense. What it does mean is this: I will not allow your past betrayal to define the entirety of my emotional life moving forward. It's a firm boundary, not a naive invitation. It's a profound release, not a forced reunion. Forgiveness is you, with quiet strength, declaring, I have carried the weight of this pain long enough. You no longer get to rent space free of charge in my mind. That is not weakness. That is emotional intelligence in its purest, most powerful manifestation. Holding on to pain doesn't protect you. It poisons you when you choose not to forgive. Here's the insidious consequence. You endlessly replay the betrayal in your mind. Day after day, you fantasize about confrontations that will never truly happen. You desperately hope for a sense of closure that they will likely never provide. You begin to define your entire identity around the wound itself. I'm the one who got cheated on. I'm the one who was betrayed. I'm the one who foolishly trusted the wrong person. But you are no longer that person. Holding on to that pain might feel powerful, but it's really just emotional recycling, reliving a moment that no longer exists in your present. And the longer you remain trapped in that self-defeating loop, the more you abandon the magnificent person you are actively becoming, all for the sake of holding on to someone who hurt you in the past. Forgiveness is spiritual discipline, This isn't merely about managing your emotions. This is about rigorously training your spirit to assert, I refuse to shrink myself to your level. I will not permit this bitterness to rot away my inner peace. I will not allow your choices to arbitrarily sculpt my future. That level of resolve demands immense strength. It requires unwavering discipline. It necessitates a level of profound inner stillness that most people sadly never attain. And that, precisely, is what Stoicism painstakingly teaches. Not to deny the existence of pain, but to rise above it without allowing it to consume or define you. You can forgive without reconnection. One of the biggest, most pervasive myths surrounding forgiveness is that it inherently requires reconciliation or reconnection. It absolutely does not. You can genuinely forgive someone and never speak another word to them again. You can forgive someone and still definitively block their number. You can forgive someone and still diligently protect your essential psychological boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean you willingly place yourself back in the line of fire. It means you metaphorically remove the bullet from your own body and begin the crucial process of healing the wound. You're not doing it to make them feel better or to absolve them. You are doing it so that you can finally breathe again. Forgiveness gives you back your story when you consciously choose to forgive. You are not erasing the past or pretending it never happened. You are, in a profound act of self-empowerment, rewriting its meaning. You stop being the helpless victim of their chaos, and you powerfully begin to become the author of your own resilient recovery. You start constructing a new, empowering narrative. That pain woke me up. That betrayal taught me invaluable discernment. That painful ending made essential room for something far better. Forgiveness isn't about eradicating the scar. It's about allowing that scar to serve as a constant reminder of your inherent self-worth, not a perpetual testament to your suffering. You forgive not because they earned it, but because you profoundly deserve inner peace. You forgive because you are definitively done carrying emotional weights that were never yours to begin with. You forgive not to forget the hard-won lesson, but to remember your incredible strength. Because if you don't let go, you remain tragically chained to what broke you, and you were never meant to live your life bound to a single act of past pain. Forgive, not for them, but for your vibrant future. Chapter 9. Living Above the Offense, the Art of Unshakable Poise Offense. In its very essence is a cunning trap. It desperately wants you to fire back, to prove your worth, to endlessly explain yourself, to lose your precious center in a battle that frankly never needed to be fought. But here's the profound truth. You don't need to react to every insult hurled your way. You don't need to correct every single misperception about you. You absolutely do not need to lower yourself to their level just to feel momentarily heard or seen. Because the precise moment you take the bait and bite back, you are no longer in control. You've handed your emotional well-being to someone who clearly doesn't even respect it. That is not power. That is surrender deceptively disguised as strength. Living above the offense. Emotional maturity and action. You do not rise by merely proving a point to your detractors. You rise by transcending the very need to prove anything at all. Living above the offense does not imply that you silently tolerate disrespect. Rather, it means you respond with profound discernment, guided by wisdom rather than raw emotion. It's the calm, knowing glance, the dignified, silent exit, the deliberate decision to walk away from drama without turning it into a theatrical performance. That is not avoidance. That is advanced emotional intelligence. Because the truth is, not everything or everyone deserves your precious attention and energy. And when you begin to protect your energy as if your very life depends on it, you start to live with an incredibly quiet yet powerful confidence. That profound power of not reacting. People typically expect you to frantically defend yourself, to snap back with a witty retort, to post about your grievances on social media, or to argue endlessly until you're exhausted. But when you choose not to, when you remain still, when you maintain your poise and composure, you inadvertently create significant psychological discomfort in the person who sought to offend you, because your silence exposes their immaturity and their desperate need for control. It loudly declares without a single word, "You do not control me. You don't even move me or disturb my inner state." That message and its quiet power is far more impactful than any insult you could ever utter. Understanding the source of offense. Here's a crucial insight that most people frequently miss. Some individuals offend others because they are deeply insecure within themselves. Others do it because they are projecting their own unresolved issues onto you. Some simply cannot tolerate your peace, your inner power, or your mere presence. But none of it, fundamentally, is truly about you. So why internalize it? You do not have to absorb someone else's chaos, their anger, their biting sarcasm, or their fake laughter. That is all theirs. You do not owe them a single response. You owe yourself, and only yourself, profound peace. Elevation is the best rebuttal. Every single time you consciously choose stillness over immediate reaction, you are diligently building your own resilience. You are becoming spiritually bulletproof. You are not being triggered. You are actively training your spirit. You are not weak. You are becoming profoundly wise. Let them gossip about you. Let them misunderstand your intentions. Let them throw shade and negativity. Your life itself will provide all the answers they need. Because when you relentlessly continue to evolve, to heal, and to rise, nothing they say or do can truly stick to you, because they are no longer speaking to who you are in this present moment. They are speaking only to the outdated version of who you used to be. Small people want small reactions. Transcendent understand this strategic dynamic. Small-minded people crave small reactions. It's not personal. It's a deliberate tactic. They desperately want you to fall, to descend into pettiness, to spiral out of control just as they do, because your calm composure exposes their inner chaos. Your healthy detachment reveals their desperate need for control. Your dignity starkly exposes their inherent dysfunction. Do not, under any circumstances, match their energy. Instead, transcend it entirely. You don't defeat low energy by wrestling with it. You defeat it by resolutely refusing to lower your own, living by your code, the Stoic principle living. Above the offense means living strictly by your own carefully considered code of conduct. The Stoics lived by unwavering principles, not by reacting to external provocation. They didn't ask, What did they say about me? They asked, what kind of person do I choose to be in this exact moment? Do you desire to be respected? Then respect yourself enough not to engage in mudslinging or petty arguments. Do you desire to be powerful? Then use your power to meticulously maintain your inner peace, not to dominate or control others. Do you yearn to be truly free? Then stop carrying the unnecessary weight of meaningless offenses. You are not weak for gracefully walking away. You are not soft for choosing silence. You are not naive for diligently protecting your energy. You are wise enough to deeply know that not every battle is truly worth fighting, and powerful enough to understand that real strength is profoundly revealed in self-restraint. Let them talk. Let them poke and prod. Let them underestimate you. Your calm demeanor is not confusion. It is absolute clarity. Your silence is not fear. It is profound mastery. You are not running from the offense. You are powerfully rising above it. Chapter 10. Rewriting your story from victim to architect. They hurt you. That is the undeniable truth. They broke your trust, walked away as if you meant nothing, and left behind an emptiness you never asked for, a wound you certainly never deserved. But now comes an even more crucial truth. They do not get to write the ending of your story. That ending belongs entirely to you. You are not what they did to you. You are not defined by the heartbreak, the betrayal, the abandonment, or the version of yourself that desperately begged to be seen, understood, or chosen. That was merely a chapter in your life. It is emphatically not the title of your entire book. And if you're still emotionally stuck on the very page where they abruptly left, you are inadvertently allowing a temporary character to define your permanent identity. But you are profoundly wiser now, stronger, clearer, and now you unequivocally choose the narrative that defines you. Identity isn't inherited. It's claimed the precise moment you stop blaming, stop endlessly replaying the past, and stop waiting for external closure is the moment you reclaim your inherent power. You are no longer defined by how they mistreated you. You are instead powerfully defined by how you choose to rise after their actions. This is where genuine self-worth is gloriously reborn, not in arrogance, but in the quiet, profound recognition that that wasn't about me. But what I do next, that is entirely about me. Rewrite your self-image with truth, not trauma. You are not too sensitive. You are, in fact, deeply aware and perceptive. You are not hard to love. You simply require genuine honesty and emotional depth, qualities that not everyone can consistently offer. You are not cold now. You have simply and wisely constructed robust psychological boundaries to diligently protect your inner peace, not to shield a fragile ego. Allow the old, limiting labels to gracefully fall away. Let the version of you that once settled for less quietly die, and then bravely rebuild your identity from the profound truth of who you have powerfully become. That is not mere reinvention. That is profound reclamation. You are the architect now, no more waiting endlessly for apologies that may never come. No more hoping they'll suddenly realize what they irrevocably lost. No more living your life as a constant reaction to their past behavior. Now you build. You build routines that deeply nourish your energy. You cultivate habits that significantly strengthen your body, mind, and spirit. You forge relationships that authentically reflect your new, higher standards rather than echoing your old wounds. This is precisely how you step fully into a high-performance mindset, not by pretending you're fine, but by meticulously building a life so authentically aligned with your true self that their absence becomes utterly irrelevant. Your best revenge, ultimately, isn't revenge at all. It's confidently walking into rooms where your profound peace creates more impact and makes more noise than your past pain ever did. Healing doesn't erase pain. It transforms it. You may still occasionally think of them. The memory might still, at times, sting a little. The old story might still echo on quiet nights, but it no longer defines who you are. Because now that painful experience serves you as a powerful lesson, as an unshakable standard, and as a potent reminder that you not only survived what was designed to break you, but you profoundly evolved because of it. That is not just healing. That is spiritual discipline and powerful action. God become the person they no longer have access to. They genuinely believed they could break you. They thought you would remain small, bitter, and utterly defeated. But the magnificent version of you that is now emerging speaks less, moves with greater intention, chooses peace over external performance, values inner energy over fleeting attention, and lives rigorously by intention, not by reactive impulses. You are no longer reachable at the same emotional level where they left you. They will never encounter this elevated version of you again, not because you are hiding, but because you have gracefully outgrown the very spaces where they still emotionally reside. You don't need to prove anything to them. You don't need to make them see your growth. You simply need to keep rising, one deliberate step at a time. Every step forward is your powerful message. Every act of self-discipline is your profound punctuation. Every boundary you honor is your final definitive word. You are not what happened to you. You are eternally what you choose to become because of it. This is your story now. Own it completely, live it fully, and let no one else ever again attempt to write it for you. You've been lied to, cheated, betrayed, and discarded, but you were not destroyed, because that very pain, rather than finishing you, profoundly introduced you to who you truly are. You are no longer desperately chasing closure, no longer begging for explanations, and no longer needing to explain your inherent worth to people who couldn't see it when it was right in front of them. You've outgrown the destructive cycle. You've boldly burned the old script, and now you rise not louder but immeasurably clearer, not angry but utterly uncheckable. You walk forward not to prove them wrong, but to become someone they no longer even recognize. They broke your heart. You meticulously built a new, stronger one. They buried you. You gloriously bloomed. They walked away. But you, my friend, bravely walked forward. If this message resonated deeply with the part of you that is utterly exhausted from being stuck in the past, then don't just passively watch it. Live it. Subscribe to StoicCraft for more content that cuts through the noise, speaks directly to your highest self, and empowers you to build a life of profound clarity, unwavering discipline, and quiet, unshakable power. Drop a comment below and share which chapter or insight hit you the hardest. Your voice matters, and you never know who you might help by courageously sharing your truth. And if you know someone who desperately needs this message, someone still trapped in bitterness or endlessly waiting for closure, please send this to them. It might be precisely what sets them free. Your healing isn't loud. It's deliberate, disciplined, and profoundly stoic. And it starts right now. This is StoicCraft, where your pain ends and your power truly begins.